Welcome to Earplay Escape. You can now support me by joining my Patreon account and also gaining access to the full audiobooks. The link is on the description below. Thank you so much for your support. Naruto, the ninja who picks up ultimate powers. Episode 121, Time turned, and a week passed in the blink of an eye. During the week, Natsuki and Hinata arrived in Yunoku from the Land of Fire, and after enjoying a few days of hot spring travel entertainment in Yunoku, they set off on the return journey. Although they didn't go to many places, this week, both of them were particularly satisfied. In the territory of the Land of Fire, return to the forest path of Konoha, Hinata. Natsuki took Hinata's small hand and spoke. Hinata turned his head and looked at Natsuki with a puzzled face. Huh? Natsuki asked meaningfully, is this trip satisfied? Hearing Natsuki's words, Hinata's little face turned red, lowered his head, and said in a shy voice, Natsuki-kun. Seeing Hinata like this, Natsuki smiled with satisfaction. Ha ha ha. Hinata. You are so cute. During the journey of the past few days, the two ate and lived together. What happened in between? Nature is a wonderful thing. Hinata's figure is so good, naturally it is not so simple to show Natsuki. As long as there is enough thought, it will naturally have a lot of effects. Except for the last step, it is indeed not carried out, but only the last step has not continued, and the other styles are naturally the same. I have to say that Natsuki chose Yunokuni to soak in hot springs. It's a clever calculation. Bang! While the two were walking on the road, suddenly there was an explosion in the distance. Stunned for a moment, Natsuki looked at Hinata beside him. Hinata. Hinata, who had a spirit in his heart, nodded directly, raised his hand and made a seal, condensing chakra, white eyes. The meridians in the eye position emerged, and Hinata's body naturally exuded a heroic aura. After watching for a while, Hinata spoke. Natsuki-kun, it's Asuma-sensei and Nara-san, as well as Kamizuki Izumo and Genko Tetsuki, two Naka Shinobi, they are fighting with two people. Those two enemies are strong, that chakra. Hearing this, Xiaomu was stunned for a moment, and then came back to his senses. Hinata, let's take a look. With a serious face, he nodded and spoke. Yes. Yikes. The figures of the two jumped onto the treetops in an instant, and quickly walked towards the direction where the battle fluctuations came. Shifting between the trees, Natsuki thought in his heart, Asuma and Shikamaru, Genka and Kamizuki Izumo, two extremely powerful enemies. Could it be said that this is an undead duo who met the Shao organization? 9 times out of 10, it is. At this moment, a public toilet is also in the open space in front of the Black Market Bounty Exchange. The 10th class, along with the two 10,000 years Shinobi and Kamizuki Izumo, are facing two enemies wearing trench coats of the Shao organization. If Xiaomu arrived at this moment, he could completely confirm the identities of these two people. One is a flying segment with a bloody March sickle and a comb on the back of society. The other is Jiaodu, the chief financial officer of the Shao organization, who wears a mask and loves money very much. These two people are not so easy to deal with. It's not because of how strong their strength is, it's just because these two people are more difficult to kill. Fei Duan's immortal body can only bury him in parts, while Jiaodu has 5 hearts, and he needs to break his 5 hearts to completely kill Jiaodu. In this case, ordinary ninjas will encounter it, and it will be very uncomfortable. At the beginning of the battle, it was just a flying section who ended up alone, because he didn't understand the reason for the opponent's fighting method. Asuma was already injured by the curse of the flying section at this moment. Holding a black rod, Fei Duan looked at Asuma kneeling on the ground, ignoring the bloody March sickle inserted in his body. Ha 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 ha. It's not the same, stupid fellow, your life, I will sacrifice it to the evil god, swish. The black stick in his hand turned and stabbed directly towards his heart, with a hideous smile on Fei Duan's face. Stop. Nara Shikamaru in the distance, his expression changed drastically at this moment, and after several counter-injuries, he had already figured out what the situation of the flying section technique was. In other words, if this rod really plugged into his heart, Asuma will die. Because Fei Duan itself is an immortal body, he has already cut off his head once, just now. So the only one who died was Asuma. Sting. Cell phone. When Nara Shikamaru rushed towards Asuma, a blue thunder flashed, and with a terrifying wind pressure that overturned everything, it directly passed Nara Shikamaru. Syllable. With one hand, he directly grabbed the black rod that Fei Duan stabbed towards him. Moisture. The thunder chakra on his body surging, and Xiaomu's icy gaze looked at the flying section in front of him. This sharp black rod, which was enough to take Asuma's life, fell in midair at this moment, and could not advance an inch. You. Looking at the flying section, Xiaomu said coldly, you really can't die, right? With Xiaomu's words, an icy chill shrouded everyone's hearts. Phew, a cold wind blew through, and everyone involuntarily shivered. Nara Shikamaru, who came back to his senses, couldn't help but be overjoyed after seeing clearly that the person who arrived was Natsuki. Rejoicing, Nara Shikamaru directly reminded, "Friend, push him out of that circle, and as soon as he comes out of the circle, his magic will lose its effect on asthma, so." As soon as Nara Shikamaru's voice fell, Natsuki raised his hand and lifted the flying segment, directly smashing it to the other side and controlling the Kakuto of Kamizuki Izumo and Gongzi Iron. Boom, click. As soon as the foot stepped on it, the special pattern carved on the ground was directly shattered. The pattern on the ground was broken, and the color on the flying segment returned to normal. "Asma Senior, bear with me a little, I solved these two people, and then I will save you." After Xiaomu spoke, his eyes looked at Kakuto and Fei Duan, who had retreated for a distance. At this moment, Fei Duan had already pulled out the bloody March sickle inserted in his abdomen, and looked at Xiaomu with an angry face. "Abominable fellow, dare to interrupt my sacred ceremony." Jiaodu pulled the flying segment with a serious face. "Fei Duan, calm down, the opponent killed Scorpion and Deidara, and the bounty is higher than the existence of the 5 shadows." Raising the bloody March sickle, Fei Duan cut and said, "Cut. I'd rather see if he's really that good." When the two were talking, the 3 of Nara Shikamaru had already come behind Natsuki. "Friend, that guy with a big scythe, as long as he gets the blood of his opponent and enters the symbol you destroyed just now, all the damage he has received will be fed back to the person who got the blood." This information, Natsuki remembered, was not quite sure before, but when Nara Shikamaru said this, he already had a number in his heart. Xiaomu nodded and said without turning his head, "Don't interfere, this kind of enemy, you can't help me." Nara Shikamaru nodded and protected Asma in the middle. "Friend, be careful." Walking towards the front, Natsuki raised his hands and made a seal. Psychic. Boom. Snap. In a cloud of white smoke, Xiaomu's saber-grass pheasant sword fell directly into his hand. Looking at the 2 of Jiaodu and Fei Duan, Xiaomu sneered, "I'd rather see if you guys really can't kill you." Episode 122. If you have the ability, you can give it a try. Fei Duan's impulsive personality, after hearing Xiaomu's words, suddenly opened his mouth and choked. "I'm not afraid of you." The others were afraid of Xiaomu, just because they would be killed, but he flew to the bottom of the immortal body, and he was not afraid of slashing the fire and flooding the water at all. Invincible. What to instigate? Not at all. Calm down, Fei Duan. The horns were very calm, their hands were raised, and the tentacles were unfolded one by one. He is only one person, and he has to take care of those weak people behind him, and we can kill him together. Airplanes. At this moment, a gossip array suddenly surrounded the 2 of Jiaodu and Faden, and a huge chakra aura directly locked the 2 of Jiaodu and Fei Duan. With waist-length hair and no wind, Hinata opened his eyes, standing tall, and the lion's head condensed by chakra in his hand was terrifying. "Who told you that I don't have a helper?" Xiaomu showed a smile on his face and looked at Fei Duan and Jiaodu. "It's 2 against 2 now." Jiaodu's face showed a solemn expression, turned his head slightly, and looked behind him. Cell phone. The fierce sound of breaking wind sounded, and Hinata's figure directly killed in front of him in the instant that Kakuto turned his head. Soft fist method, double lion bagua, 64 palms. Bang bang. In an instant, Hinata's hands were like a gatling with blue fire, and within a second, they poured directly into the acupuncture points around Kakuto's body. Monster fist. After finishing the bagua 64 palms with a Jobu double lion fist, Hinata changed his palm into a fist and smashed a fierce punch on Kakuto's body. Boom whoosh. The power of this punch erupted on Kakuto's body, directly sending him like a cannonball, and he flew out fiercely, smashed into the woods on the side, and broke several large trees. Kakuto. At this moment, Fei Duan reacted, his face changed, and he saw that Hinata directly ignored him, and instantly seized the opportunity to strike. Go and die. Swish. It's you who dies. At this time, in front of Fei Duan, Xiaomu's figure appeared directly. Flying Thunder God Wind escape 5 swords. Zheng. A blade light seemed to overshadow the sunlight, instantly streaking across Fei Duan's limbs and neck. Poof. The limbs were broken together, and together with the head that had just been connected by the horns, they flew into the air. Natsuki's knife was extremely fast, Fei Duan's head and limbs were cut off, and he was still immersed in the pleasure of killing Hinata with his own hands. Cell phone. Raised his right foot, kicked the body of the flying section fiercely, directly treated it as a brick, kicked and flew hundreds of meters, and smashed on the ground. Snap. Snap. The limbs fell to the ground one after another, making a sound, and Natsuki and Hinata stood back to back, where Kakuto and Hibi were located. The way Hinata's long hair fluttered by the wind made her look beautiful, like a goddess descending. Slowly put the knife into the sheath, Xiaomu looked indifferent, handsome and compelling. These 2 people, talented and beautiful, are peerless. With a face. On the side, the 3 of Nara Shikamaru saw this scene, opened their mouths, and were so shocked that they couldn't speak. How to say it? Maybe that's the gap. Look at the time when they hit a few flying sections and Kikuto, and then look at the cooperative battle between Natsuki and Hinata. Whether it is strength, or tacit understanding and trust in cooperation, Hinata and Natsuki both finished them. Abominable. The head was cut off, there were no dead flying segments, with anger on their faces. One or two like to look at their heads so much. Stitched together, it's quite ugly. Bastard. Xiaomu turned his head, glanced at Fei Duan's head that was still talking, and smiled coldly. Shut up. While speaking, he directly kicked Fei Duan's head as a leather ball, to the side. After doing all this, Natsuki's gaze followed Hinata's vigilant eyes to Kikuto, and asked, Hinata, what's wrong? Hearing this, Hinata frowned and said, how strange. Looking at Hinata with a smile, Natsuki asked, what's strange? Hinata took a closer look at the body that had fallen to the ground at the corners, and spoke. On his body, there are 4 chakras with different attributes. I destroyed one just now, and now there are 4 chakras. He is not dead yet. Hearing Hinata's words, Natsuki smiled and looked at Kikuto. It's not surprising, after all, he has the secret art of Taki Shinobi village. There are 5 hearts. If you want to kill him, you have to kill him 5 times, that is, destroy his 5 hearts. Natsuki's voice fell, Hinata's face was a little solemn, and he spoke. Are these 2 members of the Shao organization immortal monsters? There is something disgusting. Reaching out and rubbing Hinata's little head, Natsuki spoke. He handed it over to me. You go and see Asma Senior's injuries, help him stabilize his condition, and after I solve this monster, I will treat Asma. Hinata heard this and nodded obediently. Natsuki-kun, be careful. Hearing this, Natsuki gently bowed his head. I know it in my heart, don't worry. Swish. Hinata's figure flashed, and he went directly to Narashikamaru's side, handing over the horns to Natsuki. Hinata was not worried at all. At the same time that Hinata left, Kikuto also stood up from the ground. It's worthy of Konoha's future Hokage. It seems that you know a lot about my secrets. And that little girl from the Hyuga clan is also very good, with pure soft boxing, and that monster-like power. Hearing Jiaodu's words, Xiao Muin turned the grass pheasant sword in his hand and spoke. I thought you were going to keep pretending to be dead. Moisture. The thunder chakra on the body gradually wrapped the whole body. Xiao Mu looked at Jiaodu, and suddenly smiled and said, I heard that you once threw a shuriken at the original Hokage 800 miles away, and then began a long career of escape? The killing intent in his eyes skyrocketed, and Jiaodu looked at Xiao Mu with a frown. Stop. Do you just want to die so much? Lifting the pheasant sword, looking at the horned capital of the 4 ground grievance mask monsters that appeared on his body, Natsuki couldn't help but be happy. In this way, the person who lost his shuriken 800 miles away is really you, Kikuto. 4 mask monsters appeared, one of them was directly shattered. Natsuki glanced at it, and probably guessed which attribute of the mask monster Hinata broke. Can block the 64 palms of the double lion gossip, and also resist a strange power fist. Except for the earth attribute heart of the horn capital, which can use the earth spear to harden itself, the other nature change masks may not have this defensive power. Your heart, I take it. Looking at Xiao Mu, Kikuto's face showed an icy color. Die. Airplanes. At the same time as the words fell, the 2 nature masks beside Jiaodu directly opened their mouths. Fire and head hard. Wind escape, crush. Bang. In an instant, the power of the head hard was already very terrifying, and under the combination of wind and ninjutsu, the power reached a higher level. A flame shockwave, like a nuclear explosion, came directly towards Natsuki. Whoops, syllable. The hands instantly froze together, and Natsuki's body surged with terrifying chakra fluctuations. Water escape, big burst water rush. Episode 123, Bang. The huge stream of water like Wanyang spit out directly from Xiao Mu's air. The range was extremely extensive, and in an instant, the head of the bitter sea of fire under the blessing of the Jiaodu wind was directly wrapped. Bang. The water flow and the flame collided, directly stirring up the water vapor in the sky, and this area was suddenly white. Although the big burst of water did not form an oval-shaped huge water ball, it was also a simple technique of the horn capital, completely blocked, without the slightest. Kagura Shinkai. Natsuki's eyes closed, and Kagura's hard eye, as if it was a god's perspective, directly locked the position of Kikuto. At this moment, the horns, and then the water vapor, went directly towards the position of the flying section, apparently trying to save the flying segment. Naive. Xiaomu smiled coldly, felt the action of Kikuto, and raised his left hand and threw 4 kunai directly. Swish. Kikuto, who was moving in the water vapor, suddenly changed his face and turned directly sideways. Poof. At this moment, a kunai was directly inserted at the foot of Jiaodu. Kuwu? He had some doubts. What is the effect of this bitter stalk? At this time, sulphone. The fierce hurricane blew, and the water vapor dissipated in an instant, and the horns could clearly see this kunai, which had a special mark on it. Oops. With an exclamation, Kikuto's figure was about to retreat. Xiaomu's body lay done chakra wrapped, and the voice sounded cold. Flying Thunder God Spiral Flash Super Will Dance Roar 3 styles. Sting. A scorching blue light, as if connected into a blue thunder, instantly attracted everyone's attention. Zheng. In the next instant, Xiaomu's figure appeared behind Kakuto, and the grass pheasant sword carried a fierce thunder chakra, piercing his heart. Your heart, I will take it. Natsuki stood behind Kakuto and said in an inexplicable tone. At the same time as the words fell, standing on the other side, the few nature mask monsters summoned by Kakuto had already turned into a pool of black autumn, and the masks were directly split from the middle by a knife. Follow in the footsteps of the Earth attribute mask. Kakuto's 5 hearts, one was directly shattered by Hinata's unexpected attack, and the other 4 were destroyed under Natsuki's knife in an instant. This. Turning his head in disbelief, the horns looked at Natsuki, and the tentacles on his body hung down weakly. Am I going to die? Poof. Drawing the knife, throwing off the blood on the knife, and putting the knife back into its sheath, Natsuki looked at the Kakuto who had reached the end. Maybe you're strong, but in my eyes, the ninjas who can really fight me are dead. Uchiha is dead. The Senjukuma also died. In addition to these 2 people, even if it is other shadow-level powerhouses in the major ninja villages, such as the existence of the 3rd generation of Thunder Shadows, Natsuki does not think that he is weaker than the other party. You know, now his battle, the opponent who really allows him to exert his combat power. No. You're not bad, you can make me use 2 ninjutsu less, enough to be proud. Xiaomu said proudly, and glanced at the unwilling eyes at the corner. Sure Shiran turned around, and Natsuki walked directly towards Nara Shikamaru and them. The 5 hearts have been destroyed, the breath and chakra on Kakuto's body, in Natsuki's perception, have completely died. No one can save him, it's not right, the reincarnation innate art of the reincarnation I can still resurrect him. But will the current pain, that is, Uzumaki Nagato, use the reincarnation innate technique to resurrect Kakuto? Obviously not. The battle was fought from start to end, including Hinata and Natsuki's cooperation time, less than 2 minutes. The flying segment was cut into 6 pieces, and at this moment it was constantly shouting. And the chief financial officer of the Shao organization, Jiaodu, died. Watching Natsuki come over, Nara Shikamaru and the others came back from the flash of light just now, and asked dumbfounded, that was. Hinata, who was using medical ninjutsu to stabilize Asuma's injury, has a proud color on his face. Flying Thunder God technique. That was the S-grade forbidden technique mastered by Xiao Mujuan, and the move just now was the origin of Xiao Mujuan's being called Thunder Light. Hearing Hinata's words, the 2 people who had seen the 4th generation of Hokage wave Feng Shuimen and Kamizuki Izumo couldn't help but recall the heroes of the village, the prestige of the 4th generation of Hokage. Although they are all famous for the art of Flying Thunder God, but the 2 of Gongzi Tai and Shinue Izumo are clear. Natsuki is more comprehensive. The extreme speed of Lei Instant's body is like the 3 generations of Hokage, the ninjutsu that is easy to use, plus the pure body art and the amazing knife art that has never missed. It was as if it were a combination of the 3 generations of Hokage, the 4th generation of Hokage, the 5th generation of Hokage's medical skills and strange powers, and Kakashi's father Konoha White Fang, who was famous in the ninja world many years ago, and all the outstanding abilities of these powerhouses. It's like a demon, it's really terrifying. With Natsuki in one day, the strength of Konoha Hidden Village will be the veritable #1 in the entire ninja world. How is Asuma-senpai's situation? Natsuki came to Hinata's side and asked. Hearing this, Hinata directly spoke. The injury is serious, but it is not life-threatening. Hearing Hinata's words, Natsuki nodded and said, I know, let me do it next. While speaking, Xiaomu's hands froze, and a huge chakra burst out in an instant, and the chakra with a very strong yang vitality fell on Asuma's body. Yin and yang, when the ability of the reincarnation I was gradually developed, he had already mastered it. At this moment, Yang Duan's performance is the vitality carried in this chakra. While treating Asuma, Natsuki opened his mouth and commanded Nara Shikamaru. Shikamaru, after cleaning up the battlefield and bringing it back to Konoha, you may be able to get a lot of information. The other flying section sealed his body separately, shut him up, and brought it back. After speaking, Natsuki glanced at Nara Shikamaru's worried expression and spoke. Asuma, leave it to me, rest assured. I'm the Minister of Medicine. Secretly relieved, Nara Shikamaru said with an attitude of indifference. Yes, yes, yes. Your Honor, Asuma will be handed over to you. Natsuki looked at the 3 Nara Shikamaru who went to clean up the battlefield, and a smile appeared on Natsuki's face. Nara Shikamaru is an old tsundere in their circle. Natsuki-kun, are you alright? Hinata looked at Natsuki and asked. Performing medical ninjutsu to continue to treat Asuma, Natsuki replied with a smile. I'm fine, those 2 people, it's not enough to see. Nodded her head clearly, Hinata knew how powerful Natsuki really was. Compared to sword art, Natsuki's ninjutsu level is even above sword art. And the reason why Natsuki basically fought with swordsmanship all this time, Hinata also knew. First, the opponent is too weak, and the knife skill is enough. Second, my mother has a special feeling for Natsuki. And is Natsuki a knife flow powerful? Powerful. However, when dealing with elite forbearance, or a higher level of shadow level, it is not good. And Natsuki was able to use Natsuki's one-sword technique to kill so many powerful enemies, making his sword art famous, and directly climbing to the top in Konoha, just because he was strong enough. What is really powerful is not knife art, it's Natsuki himself. Episode 124. Soon, while the three of Narashikamaru were cleaning up the battlefield, Yamanaka Ino and Akimichi Dinji came with support. After dealing with Asuma's injuries, the group quickly left the place and returned to Konoha. After Natsuki's group left for half an hour, airplanes. Under a spatial vortex fluctuation, the members of the Shao organization wearing the vortex mask appeared here together with the members who were also wearing the Shao organization's trench coat. It seems to be a fairly simple battle. After glancing at the surrounding situation, he said, otherwise, with the strength of Jiaodu and Faden, this bounty would not exist in the Great War. The strength of Xiao Muyo's friend is much stronger than we thought. Hearing the words, the whirlpool mask man who pretended to be stupid and stunned, Uchiha scratched his head with soil. Babble. It is worthy of Konoha's thunder light. This strength is quite terrifying, really. Why should we face such an enemy, such a thing? Absolutely not. Nodded, and said, it doesn't matter, our mission will not necessarily be directly confronted by Natsuki's friends. Let's go. Faye, I got information from the Three Tails, let's go over and take a look. With a standard salute, Uchiha said funnily, yes. Mr. G, the two left directly. At the same time, the news of the death of Jiaodu and Fei Duan was also transmitted back to the Shao organization. The plan had just begun, and 4 members were directly lost, which was definitely a head-on blow for the Shao organization. Konoha Hospital, among the dissection rooms. Natsuki and Tsunade, as well as some intelligence ninjas, including Mori Hibiki, are here. On the 2 dismantling tables, the bodies of Fei Duan and Kakudu were placed. Jiaodu is already dead, but Fei Duan's body is still alive, and as for his head, it is handed over to the Yamanaka clan to let them peek into Fei Duan's mind. There is information about the Shao organization. I didn't expect this to let you meet. Tsunade looked at Natsuki, who was standing beside her, and said with a smile, but thanks to you, otherwise, we may have lost several elites this time. Let's not talk about the 10,000 years of patience for the time being. Asuma is an elite upper endurance. Narashikamaru is the future wisdom tank of Konoha that Tsunade focuses on cultivating. If the 2 of them die, it is a real loss. Nothing. Hearing this, Natsuki spoke, it just happened to happen. The rest will be left to you, teacher, and I will go home first. Hearing Natsuki's words, Tsunade nodded, let's go. Natsuki nodded and left the dissection room directly. This kind of work, although Xiaomu does not feel disgusting or anything, but he does not want to contact too much, and always feels that there are some small perverts. Left the hospital and walked home. Natsuki didn't go home directly with the Flying Thunder God, he needed some time to think about it. After many years, the general plot Natsuki still remembers, but the detailed plot of some details is not very clear. This time, the encounter with the undead duo made Natsuki wake up a little. Spread the wind, there are a lot of big things happening. It seems that we need attention from many aspects. Thinking about it, Xiaomu brushed his mind and spoke. With a little essence in his eyes, Natsuki walked quickly towards the house. Next, the most important thing is the engagement banquet with Hinata. I'm back. At the entrance of the house, Natsuki opened his mouth and shouted. Click click. Familiar footsteps came, and Hinata's handsome figure appeared in front of Natsuki's eyes. Looking at Natsuki with a gentle face, Hinata said softly, Natsuki-kun, welcome back. Handing the equipment on his body to Hinata, Natsuki changed his shoes. Is mom there? Holding Natsuki's equipment, the smile on Hinata's face did not decrease. Yes, just now my mother and I were discussing the issue of the engagement banquet, our engagement banquet, at the Akimichi family's hotel in Konoha. Natsuki-kun, when are we going to invite the Ino women? Taking Hinata's little hand and walking towards the living room, Natsuki spoke. We'll write invitations tomorrow, and we'll invite them in the next few days. Nodding, Hinata looked satisfied. Yes. I know. Getting the answer he wanted, Hinata felt that his steps were much easier, and he walked quickly towards the house, helping Natsuki put away his equipment. Walking into the living room, Natsuki saw her mother with a smile on her face. Mom, I'm back. Full of maternal brilliance, the mother's eyes are filled with love for her son. Welcome back, friend. How did it feel to travel this time? It feels pretty good. Hearing his mother's words, Natsuki nodded. Very happy. Nodded, the mother did not ask more about the trip. The intimate hot spring trip of the 2 children, as the mother of the Comer, of course, will not ask much. The trip is over, so hurry up and get ready for your engagement banquet. The mother's face suddenly became serious, and she spoke. Although Hinata doesn't care, but Hinata is a big family after all. As one of the protagonists, you can't be rude. After you finish sending the invitation, stay at home, and your mother will train you specially. Hearing his mother's words, Xiaomu's face froze. Really? Is it necessary to take special training so seriously? The mother nodded solemnly and glanced at Hinata, who had already come over. Hinata will also come to help me with my special training friend, okay? Hinata of course heard the conversation between Natsuki and his mother, and naturally knew what his mother meant. Although there were some fiancés who felt sorry for him, Hinata nodded seriously. I see, my lord mother. Looking at Hinata and her mother, who had already decided, Natsuki pouted. If only they were happy. The next day, in the morning. Natsuki's house. Natsuki, who was writing an invitation in the study, looked serious, and Hinata next to him was holding a list and giving Natsuki a hand. Speaking of which, Natsuki's words are still very good-looking. After all, the use of ninja tools in combat is to pay attention to the hand to be stable, accurate enough, and strong enough to control. Having mastered these, writing with a brush is quite simple for Natsuki. This is the last one, right? After writing the invitation to Sai, Natsuki looked at Hinata beside him. Anyone else? Glancing at the list in his hand, Hinata nodded with a smile. No more, finished writing. Putting down the pen in his hand, Natsuki spoke. Then we'll send invitations later, first to the girls, and then to the boys. Hinata nodded sweetly. I listened to Natsuki-kun. Between speaking, the two of them had already packed up the invitations on the table and sent them according to the list, and they would not send the invitations wrong, otherwise, it would really be a joke. Half an hour later, the two went out. The first place to go was the Hokage building. As the teachers of Hinata and Natsuki, Tsunade's invitation was naturally sent by the two of them. Episode 125. After a circle of invitations was sent, the time had come to the afternoon. On the way home, Natsuki looked at the last scroll left in his hand. To Naruto Uzumaki. If you really have to calculate it, after coming to this world, Natsuki's first real friend is Naruto Uzumaki. Hinata is a young wife, but she is not a friend. At the beginning, Natsuki was in the class, although he also began to run a circle of friends, but the effect was not great. After all, he was focused on Hinata's body at that time, and naturally he did not handle it very well. This is the truth of the world. If you get something, you will inevitably die something. But fortunately, I still built a circle of friends later. Walking towards the number 7 training ground alone, Natsuki remembered Hinata, who had just left, and couldn't help but smile. What a cute little fool. Probably knowing that Naruto Uzumaki was Natsuki's first best friend in the true sense, he let him send this invitation alone. Swish. The figure flashed, and Natsuki's figure disappeared on the street. 10 minutes later, training ground 7. Click click. Natsuki's figure walked from the woods to a flat land, and from a distance he saw Naruto Uzumaki, who was standing in a waterfall at the moment practicing the nature change of the wind chakra. Kakashi and Kami Shinobu, who Natsuki had never met, observed below. That Shainin, seeing him sitting in the middle of a circle of stakes, Natsuki knew his identity, Konoha real estate contract foreman, Yamato. After glancing at the two, Natsuki walked over. Cut the waterfall? Glancing at Naruto Uzumaki's hardback, Natsuki smiled. It looks like it will take a lot of time. Walking over, Natsuki came to Kakashi, who was reading the little imperial book. Does the nature of the wind escape chakra change? This kind of practice is only suitable for Naruto. Natsuki stood beside Natsuki and spoke. Kakashi-senpai, this is the first time you have taught Naruto so seriously. The real inheritance of Kakashi's mantle is Sasuke Uchiha, and his technique, Naruto, is not suitable. Moreover, Jiraiya is Naruto's best master, so Kakashi is not partial or something, and Natsuki will not say much. Individuals have their own ideas. Oh? Glancing at Natsuki, Kakashi continued, come and send Naruto an invitation? Friend Kun, looking at Kakashi with a smile, Natsuki asked, does Kakashi-senpai already know? Kakashi nodded with a smile and spoke, got it, Patriarch Hyuga sent me an invitation not long ago. I will definitely go when the time comes. Congratulations, friend Kun. Natsuki nodded and took out Naruto Uzumaki's invitation. Please help me hand this over to Naruto. Answering, Kakashi nodded, and when he looked at the words on the invitation, he knew that Natsuki wrote it himself, which was enough to see this thought. Don't you talk to him personally? The relationship between the two of you is quite good, Kakashi asked. Natsuki shook his head and spoke. Nope. Don't disturb his practice, give this scroll to Naruto. Taking a scroll out of his pocket, Natsuki handed it to Kakashi. The last time Naruto and I were on a mission, they asked me about the direction of the development of the spiral pill, so I sorted it out. And these are all the techniques of the spiral pill that I developed. Tips for super large jade spiral pills, wind done spiral pills, wind done spiral shuriken, wind done super large jade spiral shuriken, etc. It's all in this scroll. The value of this scroll is absolutely beyond imagination. Hearing Natsuki's words, Kakashi's face became solemn. I see, I'll give it to Naruto later along with the invitation. Natsuki smiled and said, so. I take my leave, swish. When the words fell, Natsuki's figure disappeared, and he used the flying thunder god to leave the training ground and go home. After Natsuki left, Kakashi glanced casually at the scroll in his hand. Friend Kuin, this gift is really precious. From Natsuki's strength level alone, Kakashi could guess that the scroll in his hand could be collected as a treasure if it was given to the village. Turning his head to glance at Naruto Uzumaki, who was training, Kakashi sighed. Naruto, this guy really has a very cherished friend. Time turned, and 10 days passed. The day of Natsuki and Hinata's engagement has officially arrived. On this day, one of the top hotels of the Akimichi family, if the banquet is usually held, it is used to entertain the Hokage-level guests in the Konoha Super Hotel, and all the moving things to be prepared for the engagement banquet are already ready. Can let Akimichi family happily accept Natsuki's engagement banquet, firstly, because Natsuki and the son of the head of the Akimichi family, Akimichi Dingji has a good relationship, and secondly, because the Hyuga family has noodles. The third and most important point, Natsuki has this identity. A disciple of the 5th generation of Hokage, the future 6th generation of Hokage, the head of Konoha's medical department, and the 1st combat force. The identity of the Hokage candidate alone is much more important than the previous one. The world is a little retro, so at the moment Natsuki and Hinata are not wearing suits and evening dresses, but informal, hard-to-wear kimonos. Nervous? Standing at the entrance of the engagement banquet with Hinata to receive the guests, Natsuki asked Hinata next to him, it should be soon, everyone will come. Hearing Natsuki's words, Hinata's face showed a smile and said, I'm not tired, there is Xiaomujuan, I don't feel tired, today is our important day. Nodding, Natsuki's gaze looked at the entrance, where Naruto Uzumaki and Sakura Haruno, as well as Kakashiban's newcomer Sai, were the first to arrive. This is also normal. Konoha's top bigwigs like Tsunade and Jiraiya are naturally going to make their final appearance. The first ones must be these juniors who are familiar with Natsuki, which can be regarded as a warm-up. Seeing Natsuki and Hinata from a distance, Naruto Uzumaki waved his hand with a big grin. Yo! Friends, Hinata. Although he was wearing a relatively formal costume, Naruto Uzumaki's personality was obviously not the kind of person who cared too much about etiquette. His current painting style is not as calm as after the 4th Ninja World War. Haruno Sakura followed behind Naruto Uzumaki, with a little anger on her face. Naruto, don't mess around, today is an important day for Hinata and his friends. Boom. Just saying that it was useless, Haruno Sakura directly used her fist and hammered Naruto Uzumaki's whole person to the eye of Venus. These two people, so it seems, are simply a copy of Wave Feng Shuimen and his wife Uzumaki Jioshinai in Natsuki's memory. It's a pity that Naruto Uzumaki doesn't have the same skills as Wave Feng Shuimen, otherwise, I am afraid that he would have captured Haruno Sakura's mind long ago. Where will it be like this, in a state of unrequited love? After saying hello, Naruto Uzumaki III did not stay here too much, and went directly in. After all, there are other guests coming. Perhaps because of Tsunade's transfer of classes, the people who knew Natsuki were all here. Of course, the other Hyuga family invited, and the adults invited by their mother, also came. After all the invited guests arrive, the engagement banquet officially begins. Episode 126, Among the Hotels. Although it was Natsuki and Hinata's engagement banquet, it was naturally impossible for those adults to come to greet the two whose parents were still there. Adults, there is a circle of adults. Xiaomu and them, naturally also have their circle. This engagement banquet is a joy for guests and hosts. At 9 o'clock in the evening, the engagement banquet ended, and the guests slowly dispersed. Of course, not everyone left. Jiraiya, Tsunade, Kakashi, Hinata Hayashi as the host, and the others did not leave, still eating and chatting on a wine table. Together with Hinata, after seeing off all the guests, and after letting Hinata go to accompany his mother, Natsuki came alone and Tsunade came here. Friend, how do you feel? Seeing Natsuki, Jiraiya had a smile on his face and asked, in this way, you are also an adult. Hearing Jiraiya's words, a smile appeared on Natsuki's face. I'm not an adult, don't I still do adult things? But in this way, my life has entered a new stage. Of course, happiness is happiness, but more is responsibility. Natsuki, who picked up a glass of sake at random and was ready to take a sip, put it down again, changed a drink, and took a sip. The responsibility to make Hinata happy. Hearing Natsuki's words, Tsunade smiled. Not only Hinata, but everyone in the entire village, in a few years, you will become the 6th generation Hokage. Nodding, Natsuki did not refute Tsunade's words. How to say it? On the basis of ensuring the happiness of your small family, take everyone to get rich together. This is the same as the fact that the poor are good for themselves, and the good are good for the world. To make Natsuki, like Naruto Uzumaki, give up his small home in order to exist, no way. Frankly speaking, Natsuki doesn't think he's a good leader. He wants to be Hokage only because of some interest ties, which are also his personal needs. Lord Jiraiya, should you still be tracking down the information of the leader of the organization recently? After chatting for a while, Natsuki looked at Jiraiya and asked, any intelligence? Hearing Xiaomu's question, the faces of several people at the wine table became serious. Those sitting at this table are people who are qualified to know the secret. Natsuki's father-in-law, Hinata, is no exception. Previously, although Hinata Hayashi was the patriarch of the Hyuga clan, but in the high level of the village, the right to speak was not very good. Like this kind of high-level secret content, he generally relied on the intelligence of the Hyuga clan. But now, because of Natsuki's relationship, Hinata's identity has naturally improved. This is a tacit exchange of benefits. Indeed. After talking about the organization, Zilei's face became serious. Recently, I did receive information about the specific location of the leader of the Shao organization, but whether it is true or not, you still need to infiltrate and investigate. Kakashi, who had never spoken, raised his eyes and asked, where? Zilei also pondered for a moment before he spoke, Yuin village. Kakashi and Tsunade, as well as Hinata Hayashi next to them, all stared at each other. When they heard about Yuin village, the first thing that came to mind was only one person, Pepperfish Hanzo. This man who was known as a demigod, even the title of Konoha Sanshinu, was given by Hanzo the Pepperfish. But Natsuki doesn't think so. I may not remember anything else, but the plot of Zilei also died in battle. Natsuki is still clear. So he knew very well that the leader of the Yunin village now was not Hanzo of the mountain Pepperfish at all, but Uzumaki Nagato, that is, Pain Rokudeo, plus a messenger of gods, Shaonan, both of whom were shadow level. Are you going to investigate? Natsuki looked at Jiraiya with burning eyes, and spoke. It just so happened that I had been resting for almost a month, and I was planning to resume my mission recently, so if Lord Jiraiya wants to investigate, take me with you. The opponent is the Shao organization, and they are all strong people that should not be underestimated. Hearing Natsuki's words, Jiraiya laughed and said, yes. But it will be a few days. Now, it is not the time to act. I have other things to do, and Tsunade, there is a matter that you need to arrange someone to deal with. While speaking, Zilei also took out a scroll from his arms. A wild-tailed beast has appeared. We don't know the purpose of the Shao organization to collect the tailed beast, but it is definitely not a good thing, so trying to prevent the Shao organization from getting the tailed beast is also a good choice. Taking the scroll, Tsunade opened it directly and took a look, and suddenly his face was serious. 3 tails. Nodded, Zilei also spoke. It's Mio. Although I don't know why the 3 tails suddenly appeared, but this news has been confirmed. Presumably soon, the Shao organization will also get the news, and the big snake pill seems to be ready to capture the 3 tails. Hinata, who had not spoken all this time, spoke at this time. The 3-tailed human pillar force of the previous generation is the 4th generation of Water Shadow of Wuin Village, and now the Water Shadow of Wuin Village is the 5th generation. About the whereabouts of the 4th generation of Water Shadow, it is estimated that it was killed, and then now the tailed beast is reborn. Hinata's words made everyone nod. The Hyuga clan is related to some families in the Mist-Hidden Village, and Hinata's information should be correct. I see. Tsunade said with a serious face. Tomorrow, I will arrange a sealing class to solve the matter of the 3 tails, the person who leads the team. Friend, it's you. After having already received Jiraiya's promise, Natsuki did not speak, and at this moment hearing Tsunade's request, he nodded. I understand, don't worry. This task is also S-class, and for Natsuki, who always thinks that he is short of money, the reward is very considerable. Plus, this task is not very difficult. The memory of Mio's task is not so clear, but despite this, Natsuki is still quite competent. Because he has absolute strength and can suppress any unexpected situation. In the evening, with Tsunade's departure, the entire engagement banquet came to a complete end. On the way home, Natsuki, who stayed at the end and dealt with the follow-up, took Hinata towards the house. Today is a special day. Hinata is going to stay at his house. Holding hands and walking towards the house, Natsuki asked, Hinata, we're finally engaged. Nodding sweetly, Hinata raised her head and looked straight at Natsuki. Well, finally engaged to Natsuki-kun. Looking at Hinata's pretty face, Natsuki smiled contentedly. Next, it's our wedding. Has Hinata ever thought about what kind of wedding you want? Hearing Natsuki's words, Hinata blushed. It doesn't matter what kind of wedding, what matters is. I'm going to marry Natsuki-kun. Hinata's words made Natsuki stunned for a moment. This little Nizi, this time is really straightforward. To be honest, at this moment, he was provoked by Hinata. Lowered his head and kissed Hinata's lips. The moonlight tonight is so beautiful. Episode 127. Early the next morning, the entrance of Konoha village. Natsuki, 8th, 10th, and Kakashiban. Except for Sunset Hong and Asma, who is still lying in the hospital, the rest of the staff gathered here. As for the third shift, that is, Kaiban, went on other missions, this time did not participate in the mission of sealing the three tails. After all, with a fairly enthusiastic teacher, the frequency of Kaiban's tasks has always been very high. Looking at everyone present, Tsunade had a serious expression on his face and spoke. Are you all clear about the content of this mission? Hearing Tsunade's question, everyone nodded with serious faces. Very good. Nodding in satisfaction, Tsunade spoke. The task of sealing the three tails will be handed over to you. It is very likely that you will fight with the Great Snake Pill and the Shell Organization, so be careful. Several new generation classes in Konoha, plus Natsuki and Kakashi, this power is already quite strong, but when I think of the opponents that are likely to be faced this time, Shoki and Orochimaru. With such a task arrangement, it is not surprising. Although Natsuki did not take this task in his eyes, Tsunade had to pay attention to it. Then teacher, let's go. After Tsunade's instructions were over, Natsuki spoke directly. Tsunade waved his hand domineeringly. Go, be careful. Natsuki nodded and said, don't worry, I won't let them have an accident. Between words, Xiaomu turned around and took the lead to leave, and the rest of the people followed with a serious face. Tailed Beast. Everyone who is no longer a ninja Xiaobai certainly knows what the word Tailed Beast represents. That's unparalleled power. Yikes. One after another, the figures are running quickly towards the front. Natsuki took the lead, with a thoughtful look on his face. The sealing class is conducted by Hinata, Sakura, Ino, and Sai, who is good at sealing, and if you have the combat power, it is me, Kakashi, Naruto, Shikamaru, Dingy, and Shino. Should be enough. Kakashi followed Natsuki's side. This time, the mission was led by Natsuki, followed by Kakashi as the vice captain. In terms of character experience alone, the current Natsuki is no worse than Kakashi. In order to prevent the battle from going to be fought after reaching the destination, so on the way forward, let's divide into groups first. Leading the way in front, Natsuki said at the same time, got it? The ninja carried out the task, everything was based on the will of the captain. Natsuki spoke, everyone naturally had no doubt, even Kakashi answered with a serious face. Sealing class, Hinata, Sakura, Ino, and Sai. Natsuki said with a calm face, the task of the four of you is to seal the three tails, and the rest will be left to us. Hearing Natsuki's words, the four Hinata nodded with serious faces, and answered in unison, yes. After glancing at Hinata, Natsuki spoke again, Kakashi-senpai, Naruto, the three of you are in a group, as a combat class, ready to fight the enemy at any time. Shikamaru, Tsuji, and Shino, you are in a group of three, ensure the safety of the sealing class. Kakashi's two groups of people also responded, yes. Naruto Uzumaki looked at Natsuki with doubts on his face and asked, what about you, friend? Acting alone, without cooperation, facing the tailed beast, it will be very dangerous. Hearing Naruto Uzumaki's words, Natsuki smiled. It's just a tailed beast, it's not a big deal, I'm more worried about the attack of the Shao organization than the tailed beast. This time, there are two tailed beasts gathered there. Between speaking, Natsuki glanced at Naruto Uzumaki. In an instant, Naruto Uzumaki understood what Natsuki meant, and nodded silently. He is well aware of his situation. But even so, Naruto Uzumaki will still come, and unlike the others, what he wants is to face the organization head-on. And Naruto Uzumaki is not weak. After the division was over, everyone stopped talking and rushed silently. Speechless all the way. When the sun had just come out the next morning, Natsuki and his party came to a huge lake that was foggy and wide, and felt like an inland sea. This is the mission location. Natsuki looked at this huge lake and said, according to the intelligence of Lord Jiraiya, the whereabouts of the three tails are here. Hearing Xiaomu's words, everyone who performed this mission had solemn faces. Kakashi spoke. The scope of this lake is too wide to determine where the three tails are, try it with perceptual ninjutsu? Hearing this, Natsuki nodded, I'll give it a try. With a seal on his hands, Natsuki closed his eyes. Kagura Shinkai. Buzz. An extremely large perception re-enveloped the entire lake and the area on the shore with Natsuki as the renewal, and the speed was very fast. 1, 2. 6. Natsuki did not feel the three-tailed chakra, but felt the 6 chakras in the extreme distance. 6 chakra? After perceiving clearly, Natsuki opened his eyes. Kakashi and the others looked at Natsuki and asked, friend, can you sense it? Shaking his head, Natsuki spoke. There is indeed a chakra with a tailed beast in this lake, but where it is, I don't know. It can only be to see the technique of the sealing class. Sai, can you do it? Hearing Natsuki's question, Sajui nodded with a serious face. Leave it to the sealing class. Naruto-sama is preparing a sealing technique with a function that can detect the three tails. Nodding, Natsuki turned to look at Kakashi. Senior Kakashi, the next thing on this side will be handed over to you. If the members of the Shao organization appear, you can resist it for the time being. I will go and see what the situation is with the gang on the other side. Hearing this, Kakashi looked at Natsuki and asked, "Are there enemies?" Shaking his head, Natsuki spoke. "It's not clear, but the one who appeared here is not the big snake pill. I'm afraid it's the Shao organization. There are 6 people on the other side. My mobility is the highest. I'll just go. You are in charge of the three-tailed side." Turning his gaze to Hinata beside him, Natsuki spoke. "Hinata, protect yourself. Contact me directly with slugs if you have something." Hearing Natsuki's worried words, Hinata gently bowed his head. "I see." Swish. As soon as Hinata's voice fell, Natsuki's figure left an afterimage in place, and it had disappeared directly here. Glancing in the direction Natsuki left, Kakashi spoke. "Then let's get moving. Sealing class, please." Kakashi's voice fell, and everyone present began to act. To find Sonoi in such a large lake can be said to be quite a huge project. It is quite time-consuming, and the enemy does not yet know when it will come. Naturally, the sooner it ends, the better. Episode 128. At the moment, the shore on the other side of the lake. On a rock, there were 2 people standing, a woman, a child. The woman had a pineapple head and was dressed in a red dress with a camellia flower printed on it. The other one is a teenager who looks like a girl. 4 others stood below them, looking in the direction of the lake. If Natsuki was here, he would be able to recognize that these people were none other than the people sent by Orochimaru to subdue the 3 tails this time, Red Lotus and a few of her men. As for the boy who looked like a girl, he was a special being, with the power to control the 3 tails, named Omimaru. Swish. At this moment, a figure fell from the woods behind him to the Red Lotus. Sister Red Lotus. As soon as he appeared, the man said hello to the Red Lotus. Turning her head, Hong Lian looked at the person who came, frowned. "Too slow, Linner. What did you go for?" Hearing Red Lotus's words, a smile appeared on Linner's face. "Nothing. I just found something interesting, so I was a little late." Glancing at Lin Er with a slightly skeptical look in her eyes, Hong Lian did not continue to ask, but directly spoke. "You 5, get ready, and start summoning the Battle of the 3 Tails right away." The 5 people of Lin Er all nodded and answered in unison, "Yes." After saying an order, Red Lotus turned her head and looked at the ghost pill beside her. There was a hint of entanglement in his eyes, but in the end, Red Lotus still spoke. "Orochimaru, is that okay?" Hearing Red Lotus's words, although Ghost Pill was a little afraid, he still nodded. A few steps forward and coming to the edge of the cliff, Orochimaru closed his eyes, and suddenly a pillar of chakra light burst out from his body. Thundered. The moment the chakra shock wave dispersed, in the entire lake, suddenly there were strong chakra fluctuations scattered. On the surface of the lake in the distance, layers of water waves began to flood upwards. It's like having a behemoth coming out of a lake. Seeing this scene, Red Lotus's face showed a trace of essence. "It's out, Mio." Swish. Natsuki's figure fell to the shore. "This is..." Turning his head to look at a giant beast that suddenly appeared in the middle of the lake, a fine light flashed in Natsuki's eyes, and he spoke. 3 tails. At this moment, Natsuki directly identified the 6 paths in the distance. No, another chakra appeared just now. It should be 7 people. The identities of the 7 of them were determined. Is it the special kid who can control the 3 tails? After Natsuki spoke, he turned his head to look at the 3 tails who had already appeared. "Forget it, the opportunity is rare. Take down the 3 tails first." As for whether he can take down the 3 tails alone, Natsuki is not worried at all. It even felt very relaxing. Swish. As soon as his figure moved, Natsuki's figure was like electricity, killing the 3 tails who had surfaced like the wind. In the blink of an eye, he had already killed not far from the 3 tails, and Natsuki's figure jumped up. Wind done super large jade spiral pill. As soon as the hand was raised, the claw grabbed, and a huge spiral pill instantly appeared in Natsuki's hand, and it smashed straight towards the head of the 3 tails. Roar. Sensing Natsuki's attack, the 3 tails roared violently, strongly breaking free from the control of Orochimaru, and the 3 huge tails blocked Natsuki's attack route. Boom. Bang. The huge power of the super jade spiral pill burst out, and even if the 3 tails resisted, the huge body was still shocked to retreat some distance. However, compared to his huge body, this distance is not worth mentioning at all. Roar. Roaring towards Natsuki, the 3 tails opened their mouths, and a terrifying water column impacted, and it bombarded towards Natsuki. Water array. His hands instantly froze, and Natsuki slapped on the surface of the water. Bang. Although he did not spit water with his mouth this time, he was in the lake, and Natsuki's water was powerful and rose straight up. The water column collided with the water array wall, bursting out earth-shattering waves, and did not hurt Xiaomu in the slightest. Just when the splash in the sky has not completely fallen, at this time, buzz. An extremely noisy voice sounded, and immediately after, Natsuki's bursting voice came. Fengdan Super Jade Spiral Shuriken. Zheng. Composed of wind escape chakra, a terrifying super-large jade spiral shuriken with a diameter range of nearly 10 meters suddenly cut through the waves and the spray in the sky, and fell on Mio's body in the blink of an eye. Boom! Thundered. The moment it hit, the super jade spiral shuriken burst out, and the lake surface, which was already volatile, was instantly as if it had been blown apart by a depth bomb, and the terrifying explosion impacted, straight to the sky. Roar! The sound of the three tails eating pain sounded, and then Natsuki felt that the chakra of the three tails was sinking rapidly, and quickly disappeared into Natsuki's perception. It seems that he wants to use his special ability as a water-tailed beast to quickly escape and leave here. Want to go? Xiaomu could still see the huge black shadow in the lake, and he was diving quickly, sneering, and was about to catch up. Crash! The lake under Natsuki's feet suddenly changed, and a hand came towards his ankle. Huh? Surprised for a moment, he allowed himself to be caught, turned his head, and looked in the direction of the Red Lotus and the others he had just perceived. Did it come so quickly? In Xiaomu's line of sight, Red Lotus was followed by her other three subordinates, quickly rushing towards him, with a look of killing intent. You guy, you dare to destroy Sister Red Lotus's battle plan, you're finished. Just when Natsuki was wondering, a strange man who grabbed his ankle suddenly condensed a head from the water and looked at him and spoke. Brows frowned, Xiaomu did not speak, just glanced contemptuously at the person under his feet, and a trace of electricity flashed on his body. Thunder thunder, Chidori flow. Sting. The huge thunder chakra burst out on Xiaomu's body, along the ankle, and directly rushed into the body of the person under his feet. Yes, in an instant, the person at Xiaomu's feet was scorched black and couldn't stop screaming. In just a few seconds, the breath of life had already dissipated, and the body slowly sank towards the bottom of the lake. Even my feet, Natsuki said with a calm face, it's not that you can catch it casually, without strength, grab my feet, you will also die. With the flow of 1,000 birds that erupted from his chakra, the terrifying thunder chakra current, ordinary upper ninja could not resist it at all. Not to mention this guy who has been transformed and become a little special. Really, when Natsuki's anal is something he can grab if he wants to? Killing someone lightly, Natsuki's gaze never wavered. Raising his head, Xiaomu looked at the four Red Lotus who had arrived not far in front of him. Snap. A hand was directly placed on the grass pheasant sword, and Xiaomu's gaze looked at the four people of Red Lotus, not directly shot, but observing. The ninja of Konoha. After coming closer, Hong Lian looked at Xiaomu with a serious face and spoke. I didn't expect that Konoha's ninja would arrive so soon. While speaking, Red Lotus looked at Xiaomu, so strong. The first feeling that Natsuki gave her was that she was so powerful. In an instant, Red Lotus's face became quite cautious and serious, and the perception on her body opened to the maximum. Frankly speaking, at this moment, episode 129, super strong enemy. The Red Lotus was full of biting cold, constantly telling her, this person is invincible. Withdraw? I didn't dare to retreat because I was locked by Natsuki. War. Don't dare to do it easily. Looking at the Red Lotus and several people, Xiaomu said with a calm face, you dare to come to me for trouble with 3 miscellaneous fish, quite daring. Didn't the big snake pill tell you that even he was trying to escape in front of me? Do you want to fight? Click. The grass pheasant sword moved, and a killing intent flashed in Xiaomu's gaze. No. Red Lotus's face changed, and her figure was subconsciously about to retreat. At this time, call. Beside him, the subordinate with the gas mask directly spewed out gray smoke and covered it towards Natsuki. Choke. The sound of the grass pheasant sword coming out of its sheath resounded in thick smoke, and immediately after, a sword light suddenly lit up. 1 knife flow, wind escape, 4 cuts. Xiaomu's voice sounded, followed by 4 terrifying wind and knife chi, instantly split this thick smoke, with unparalleled power, directly slashed at the opposite Red Lotus 4, quickly and ruthlessly. Feeling Xiaomu's attack, Red Lotus's face changed drastically. Oops. Back off, poof. As soon as Red Lotus reminder came to mind, she heard the sound of 3 knives cutting off her body. Then 3 blood flowers flew into the air, and her 3 subordinates, at this moment, did not make any sound. Jingdun Suaging Mirror. Without time to pay attention to the life and death of several of her subordinates, Red Lotus's hands instantly froze, and a large crystal mirror appeared in front of her, blocking it in front of her. Dinklick. With a crisp symphony, the entire crystal mirror, from the middle, was split in the blink of an eye. Swish. Between the figures, Red Lotus sealed her hands and looked around herself. Jingdun. Sting. Xiaomu's figure suddenly appeared in front of the Red Lotus, bathed in thunder light, and the grass pheasant sword had been sheathed and made a pulling gesture. 1 knife flow, thunder, pull out the knife and slash. Zheng. The piercing sword light made Red Lotus's eyes only have a white blade light, followed by a darkness. Death has finally come. In a trance, Red Lotus seemed to see the figure of Ghost Pill. Opening his mouth, raising his hand to grab the air, Red Lotus's eyes showed a hint of nostalgia. I'm sorry, Orochimaru. Can't take you to find red camellia flowers, snap. The body fell into the lake, blood flowed, staining the clear lake, making the scene look a little sad. Click. Putting the knife back into its sheath, Xiaomu glanced at the body of the Red Lotus and shook his head. Qingbinjia, why is it an enemy? At the beginning, Natsuki's target was the three tails, and he didn't want to attack the Red Lotus. But as he said, what an enemy? Since as an enemy, whether it is a man or a woman, for Xiaomu, Red Lotus and the others have a way to die. Kill, kill. Shoo. Detect that a golden card has been dropped within 100 meters of the host. Is it picked up? The voice of the system, as always, sounded in his mind, but at this moment, a golden card burst out after a long absence. Pick. Natsuki said silently in his heart. Successfully picked up, obtained the golden crystal blood succession limit card, which has been stored. Jing done. That is, the blood succession limit used by the Red Lotus is not too strong, but it is not weak, and after it is developed, it should be quite good. This should be the third blood succession limit I exploded, right? Natsuki muttered. The first is wide-eyed, the second is 2 parts of the immortal body, and the third is this crystal. With a smile, Natsuki turned and rushed back in the direction he came. The matter over here has been settled. Night. In a camp in the forest on the riverbank. Natsuki and the others, sitting around the campfire, were eating dry food. The lake is too big, and Mio is in a state of movement, so it's really difficult to find Mio from here. Narashikamaru spoke, and according to the intelligence brought by the friend from there, the people of the Big Snake Pill have arrived, then presumably the more dangerous Shao organization will come soon. If nothing else, this time the task is difficult to complete. Kakashi nodded approvingly. Orochimaru doesn't have to worry too much over there, the most important thing is still the Shao organization. Now there are 3 tails and Naruto here, if a large number of members of the other party come over, our situation will not be safe. After the analysis of the two, everyone turned to look at Natsuki, and Narashikamaru asked, what to do? Friend, is the task going to continue, or is it going to end? Glancing at everyone, Natsuki spoke. Continue searching tomorrow and try it. If you can find the 3 tails, then seal it, complete the mission. If you can't find it, then the mission is over. Kakashi-senpai is right. Speaking of this, Natsuki's face was serious, and he spoke. The Shao organization will come at any time, and I am not sure of their number. It is too dangerous, I can't gamble with your lives. Hearing Natsuki's decision, everyone had no opinion. Not only because Natsuki is the captain, but his approach is the most reasonable. After the discussion, they each rested. Natsuki and Hinata, as a newly engaged fiancé, it is natural that the two are alone. This scene caused Naruto Uzumaki to once again desperately invite Haruno Sakura to date. And then beaten. Holding Hinata's little hand, Natsuki took her to the lake. Sit on a clean rock by the lake, look at the starry sky, and look at the lake at night. Hinata leaned on Natsuki's shoulder. Natsuki-kun, what does the 3 tails look like? Today, Xiaomu and the brief exchange, this information, naturally, also told everyone. Hearing Hinata's question, Natsuki pinched his chin and spoke. 3-tailed? That's a big turtle. It's not good looking, it should be said that it is quite weird. However, the defense was quite good, and he ate my oversized jade spiral shuriken without much damage. Natsuki's words made Hinata slightly surprised. That technique didn't hurt the 3 tails? She had seen the power of the Super Jade Spiral Shuriken. It was definitely the most powerful wind ninjutsu she had ever seen, and there was no one. It's normal. Natsuki spoke. The tailed beasts are actually a collection of chakra, and their injuries can recover quickly with the support of that huge chakra. Therefore, if you want to defeat the tailed beast, it is best to use the sealing technique. Hinata heard this, nodded, and leaned against Natsuki to stop talking. The atmosphere gradually became quiet and beautiful. Hinata's gaze turned slightly, looking at Natsuki's side face, his heart beating faster. Then slowly, the little face turned red, and after a deep groan, Hinata took the initiative to get into Natsuki's arms. Huh? Stunned for a moment, Natsuki looked down at Hinata, who had a red face. Hinata, you're so cute. Since returning from the trip, Hinata has become more and more active, and Natsuki has been prodded from time to time. Gradually, there are some feelings that I can't hold back. The little face rubbed Natsuki's heart, and Hinata's eyes looked at Natsuki brightly. Honey, want, dear. Hearing this, Xiaomu's eyes instantly became gentle. Okay. Huh. Lowering his head, Natsuki kissed Hinata directly. The lake is bright and night, and the beautiful couple on the shore, picturesque and beautiful. Episode 130, the next morning, on the lake. Natsuki glanced around, looked at the 4 Hinata people who were holding the sealing enchantment, and spoke. The place where the 3 tails appeared yesterday is here, escape over there, and then you can start to explore from here. Hearing Xiaomu's words, several people in the sealing class nodded with serious faces. Taking a deep breath, Hinata spoke, then seal the class, the action begins. Hinata's strength is the strongest, so the entire sealing enchantment is dominated by her, although Sajui knows this enchantment best, but in order to ensure the success rate, it is best for Hinata to lead. When Hinata began to shift positions, Sakura and the others, too, began to move. Yikes. The sealing class began a search operation, Nara Shikamaru and others in charge of protection followed, and no enemies appeared for the time being, and Natsuki and Kakashi's group also followed the sealing class and temporarily performed their tasks as a guard class. Kagura Shinkai. With a slight narrowing of his eyes, Natsuki raised his hand to make a mark and began to sense the surrounding chakra fluctuations. Will it come? He was referring to the people who knew the organization. In memory, it was Uchiha Obito and Deidara who captured the three tails. But now Deidara is dead, and the other protagonist, Uchiha with soil, Natsuki has never seen it, so it is not clear whether the other party will come over. All in all, now that the enemy is in the dark, I can only wait. Following the action of the sealing class, time passed little by little. Half a day later, just when Natsuki chose to give up, airplanes. The exploration enchantment stretched out by the sealing class instantly reflected fluctuations. Natsuki-kun, found it. Hinata's face looked at the vigilant Natsuki with a serious color, and spoke, do you want to start sealing now? Nodding, Natsuki ordered, let's go. Shikamaru, Kakashi-senpai. Start preparing. After turning his head to glance at Nara Shikamaru and Kakashi, and getting them ready for everything, Natsuki stood beside Hinata. Looking at Hinata's slightly nervous face, Natsuki said softly, Hinata, relax, everything is with me, nothing will happen. Natsuki's words warmed Hinata's heart and nodded, Xiaomu-kun, don't worry. After saying something to Natsuki, Hinata looked at Haruno Sakura and the others, and spoke, ready? The seal begins. At the same time as the words fell, the four people gradually scattered, widening a lot of distance, and the entire sealing enchantment became even greater. Immediately afterwards, the technique on the hands of the four people changed. After the word tan on the seal pattern was transformed into the word seal, the seal officially began. Bang! Under the water, there was a terrifying chakra fluctuation, which made everyone's faces become serious. In terms of the amount of chakra alone, the three tails below are worthy of the name of the tailed beast. The seal began, and Natsuki's perception was open to the maximum at the same time, far away, directly covering this area. The direction far away from Natsuki and the others, airplanes. With a burst of spatial fluctuations, Uchiha took the earth and the two people to appear here. From a distance, I saw the movement on the lake, and a fine light flashed in Uchiha Obito's eyes. Ah, Mr. J.E., we're late. Hearing Uchiha's words, he said faintly, there is no way around this. After all, Konoha is such a big village, and the intelligence is naturally much better than ours. Uchiha took the soil to look at the lake and said strangely, what should I do? Do you want them to take the three-tailed seal away? No, I don't want to join the organization and fail in the first mission. It's all to blame for other seniors who captured other tailed beasts and needed to be sealed, otherwise we would have taken the three tails long ago. Absolutely ignored Uchiha Obito's funny appearance, and spoke, what now? That thunder light is there, plus Kakashi the Sharingan, it's only you shouldn't be able to take Mio with you. Putting down the hand that was swinging left and right, Uchiha Obito's tone became calm, and he spoke, who knows? Airplanes. In the next instant, Uchiha's figure with soil had already disappeared in place, directly entering the spatial vortex. Ju's body also slowly sank into the land and disappeared. At this moment, the sealed place, Natsuki was very seriously guarded. Suddenly, swish. Shurikens and kunai, which were about the size of a human body, shot out from a huge twisted space vortex, killing the four members of the sealing class who were sealing the three tails in all directions. Enemy attack. The moment the spatial vortex appeared, a cold light flashed in Xiaomu's eyes, and he opened his mouth to remind him, and his hands were sealed. Water array. Bang. A huge wall of water directly blocked Natsuki and Hinata's side. Boom boom. The kunai and shurikens that attacked Natsuki and Hinata were all blocked. Turning his head and glancing at the others, seeing that nothing happened, Natsuki nodded with satisfaction, and was not surprised. Fire escape, how fireball technique. At this moment, a huge fireball fell from the sky and bombarded the entire sealing enchantment. His eyes froze, and Xiaomu's face remained unchanged. Kakashi on the other side, instantly sealed, lightly stepped on the lake, water dragon technique. Crash. The water on the surface of the lake fluctuated, rushed up a column of water, turned into a dragon shape, and roared towards the huge fireball. Bang! When the two collide, they explode instantly, and the water vapor will spread. Wind escape big breakthrough. Raising his hand to make a seal, Natsuki opened his mouth and vomited, and a violent hurricane directly blew away all the water vapor. At such times, it is important to keep your sight. Airplanes. In a spatial vortex, the figure of Uchiha with soil appeared from it. It's worthy of being friends with Kakashi Sharingan and Natsuki of Thunder Light. At the same time as it appeared, the words of Uchiha with soil came. Easily, it defended against my attack, and it really deserves its name. Snap. A hand was placed on the grass pheasant sword, and Natsuki's eyes, with a trace of blue light, looked at Uchiha with soil. Don't speak, just look at him like that. Are you? Members of the organization, Kakashi's face showed a serious color, and his forehead was already prodded. Who are you? Hearing Kakashi's words, Uchiha took a hand and made Kakashi and the others instantly alert. My name is Afe, and I'm Zhao's newcomer. However, he scratched his hair with his backhand, and after Uchiha introduced himself, he seemed to say to himself, Yay! Distressed, with the two of you here, my first task seems to be unfinished. This is really too helpless. Now in this situation, what should I do? Such a sudden change made Kakashi, Nara Shikamaru and the others who were nervous for a while speechless. This guy, is there a problem with his brain? Naruto Uzumaki, who had a relatively straight personality, directly complained. What is he doing in this situation? After swiping the treasure for a while, Uchiha took the soil and said, forget it. Now, you can only try hard, syllable. With his hands folded, Uchiha took the soil and shouted, occult.